The Beam Eye Tracker sits firmly in the budget side of head tracking, but is that the full story? In this video I'll go through what the Beam Eye Tracker is, how it performs, the things to take into consideration, plus the pros and the cons versus the likes of Tobii and TrackIR. The guys at Beam did send me a free code to download and test this. This is not a paid review. So head tracking, what exactly is it? Well, essentially the Beam Eye Tracker will replicate your head movements and correlate that into the sim. It's that simple. And also very effective, especially for flight simulators. So we have a few options when it comes to head trackers like Tobii and TrackIR, which I've used a lot. Now, both of these come in at the upper end of the scale in terms of price. That's where Beam Eye Tracker comes in. The Beam Eye Tracker is just $30, but that's not the full picture because this is essentially just a plug-in. You'll have to get a webcam to go with it. Now, this can cost you anywhere from $30 to a couple of $100 depending on what you want to go for. But you can also use your phone. Unfortunately, the experience I had using my phone, there was just too much latency. So this review going forward will always be using a webcam, as I just can't recommend a phone setup. Talking about webcams, Logitech kindly sent me out this Brio webcam to test. And there's a specific reason the Brio is the perfect webcam for this. It will relay video footage at 90 frames, 60 or 30 FPS, so we can test the different frame rates. I've also managed to get hold of a budget Logitech webcam just to see how this compares in terms of latency and accuracy. I'll link both these, the Logitech Brio and the I think it's a C270 webcam, in the description of this video. Now, one thing to note here is that any webcam that has a wide field of view might not be the best option. So definitely check out the list of recommended webcams on their website. So to get this full thing up and running, you need to purchase and download the Beam Eye Tracker plugin from the website. Link in the description. And also OpenTrack, which is free. You'll need to run both of these to get the head tracking up and running. As far as the setup process goes, it's very simple and easy, both on Beam and OpenTrack. So nothing really to report back there. You can get it calibrated and up and running within a few minutes. So it's all looking good so far. But one of the biggest questions I had was, does the frame rate of the webcam actually matter? Like, am I going to get a better experience if I run it at 60 or 90 frames a second? Now, what you're looking at right now is DCS using the Brio webcam running on 90 FPS at 720p. And I have to say, the initial performance is really quite good. It's much better than I expected. I did tinker around with the smoothness filter in the app. However, the more smoothness you tend to apply, the more latency you get, and it is fairly noticeable, especially anything up over 60%. The sweet spot for me, I found, was between 25 and maybe 35-40%. Anything more than that and you can just start to notice a lag. So most of the footage you're seeing here was set at around 30% smoothness. As far as frame rate goes, dropping the webcam down to 60Hz from 90Hz didn't seem to have much of an effect on the smoothness of the head movement or the latency. Maybe a little bit, but it was quite hard to tell. Again, moving from 60Hz down to 30Hz, it was kind of the same, so I was, you could say, second guessing myself a little bit, but I did come to the conclusion that it does make a small difference. And running on that lower frame rate wasn't quite as nippy feeling. That changed though when I moved it back from 30Hz back to 90Hz. Moving back up to 90 from 30 does show the contrast and smoothness, and I can say that 90Hz does offer a smoother experience, but not by much, just enough to be noticed. Now, the selling point for the Beam Eye Tracker plugin is looking at it from the budget point of view. $30 is way cheaper than the likes of TrackIR or Tobii Eye Tracker. But that's not the whole story. Like we said before, you will have to buy a webcam unless you already own one. And again, you can use your phone too, but I found the latency introduced by using my phone just made it not that great. So based on the budget-friendly nature of it, let's try a budget webcam from Logitech. Here you can see me using the Logitech C270 at just $20 US. So that's $30 for the plug-in and about $20-ish for this budget webcam. So $50 all in. And for $50, it's really quite impressive for that price. Although I found it to be a bit of a better experience with the more expensive Brio webcam running at 90Hz, there really wasn't much in it. It's surprising how well this actually works. And if you've always been looking for a cheap way of getting into head tracking without going down the DIY route, then this is it. Let's now go over the good points and the potential trade-offs that you might face, as you've got two other big boys in this area, TrackIR and Tobii. Now, I've reviewed both of them over the years and both are great in their own right, but here's how I see it. Both Tobii and TrackIR are much more expensive compared to the Beam Eye Tracker and the budget webcam. Price-wise, it's not even close. So in terms of cost for what you're getting, Beam Eye Tracker is brilliant. Although the experience was slightly better with the high-end Brio webcam, so just take that into consideration. TrackIR does have the smoothest, most accurate head tracking out of all of them. Tobii's not far behind, and then the Beam Eye Tracker with the webcam I tried a close third. So if accuracy and latency is the single most important thing to you, then I think TrackIR or Tobii still is the best option. But they also come with their own trade-offs, and I've covered that in some of my other videos, so check them out. Then there's the convenience. Both Beam and Tobii don't require any clips to your head tracking. You just sit down in front of the computer and you're off. In addition, Beam can be placed on the bottom or the top of your monitor, which gives it a slight edge over Tobii because that can be super useful, especially if you have any type of avionics in front of your monitor. Software-wise, although you do have to run two programs with Beam, that's Beam Eye Tracker and OpenTrack, I find it less frustrating and more seamless than the software from TrackIR and Tobii to work with. So another little win for the Beam Eye Tracker. Then there's the fact that if you already own a webcam, then Beam Eye Tracker is even more of a bargain, especially if you're running on a single screen in DCS, IL2, War Thunder or Microsoft Flight Simulator. So can budget be brilliant? After all, it's the title of this video. Now, I can't say it's brilliant, but I can say it's bloody close. People will disagree with me here, and that's fine, but I don't think it's going to replace TrackIR or Tobii. It just doesn't have the smoothness, accuracy, or speed that it needs to do that. But it's not far off. And when you consider the price of the Beam Eye Tracker and a cheap webcam combined, the Beam Eye Tracker is a bit of a no-brainer. And honestly, most people will get used to the slight amount of latency, and over time, I think it will just become a non-issue. The software is also very stable, it's easy to use and configure, and it has a large library of compatible games because it's connecting through OpenTrack. It's the perfect way to test the waters as such with head tracking, just to even see if it's for you.